Hello everyone, I'm back with another video for you today, and this time got some more card reveals to show you. Again, some pretty exciting ones, some very powerful legendaries, for each faction, and some really crazy card effects, the likes of which we haven't really seen too much of, for a few expansions. I gotta say guys, I'm really loving the approach that they take in this expansion. Seems to very much be less about just kind of a homogenization of factions. There's a powerful card for each faction, or a powerful set of legendaries or whatever, but there's not really any similarity between them. They're doing different things for each faction, and very much playing into archetypes and game plans that you want to be playing into with those archetypes and factions. So very exciting stuff, but let's just jump into the cards, shall we? First, we'll start with bronze card, keeping it chill. We've got the Chimera, which is a monster 5 for 5. I'm sorry that quality is not too great, just, that's the image that I had for this reveal. And yeah, deploy, consume an allied unit, Adrenaline 4, boost all copies of consumed unit in that unit's row by 1. So, pretty interesting effect, definitely a card that, seems to be pretty much getting you value when you've got a lot of the units, right? So you're thinking maybe like in an Arrakis drone deck with a lot of insectoids, possibly you just play this in order to boost all the copies of it in a similar way to maybe an Arrakis behemoth could do that. Or this can just, be a regular old consume, with a harpy or a barghest or whatever. Seems like it's actually not costed too badly. It's difficult to see what kind of deck it would be played in, though. I'm just trying to imagine, I guess, maybe an insectoid deck where it could also get some value from, from consuming a Deathwish unit. Kind of a hard one. I guess maybe you could play this with V or Veer. I don't know how the big insectoid is pronounced. We'll get onto that card in a minute. Yeah, maybe there's a synergy that I'm not quite seeing, because right now it seems a bit like it's a card that you just prefer to swap for another card. Like, it's kind of like a Clear Skies effect. So if you want that effect, you'd probably rather just play that or Bone Talisman. And if you'd rather have a consume, then you'd probably rather play, a Harpy or a Barghest or, Endriga Warrior or whatever. So I'm not sure I see this fitting in too many decks. I guess it's a beast, but yeah, I don't really see it. Alright, next we've got Leo. This is a Witcher 4 for 7, boost self by 1 for every Witcher you control, so quite clearly more support for like an all Witcher deck, or a very heavy Witcher focused deck. You might want to play Leo, you might play Berengar, is that his name? Just these kind of point slam, low-ish provision cost cards. Don't think they're too good though. You can kind of compare this to like a Barclay Els kind of card, right? Ellis, the names are eluding me today a little bit. But yeah, again, it's the kind of card that I think you throw in a Witcher kind of all-in deck, but it's not going to be too great, I think. Like, I don't think there's going to be a Witcher deck that you actually would want to be like very competitive with, like all-in Witchers. Don't think that's ever going to be super great. But, it's sort of one of those, like, a little bit less viable, but you could still do it kind of ideas. And I guess that's where he fits in. Not really too much more to say about that. I don't think you're playing this in any deck that only runs a few Witchers, because then it's just not finding the value, is it? Next up we got Vypper. 7 for 9 Nilfgaard card, very important. 2 armor, beast. At the end of your turn, put this card in your opponent's graveyard. At the end of your turn, while in graveyard, banish the lowest cost card from it, and if it's the only card in the graveyard, give it doomed and summon it to the opponent's row. So this is a very interesting card. Some graveyard hate, denial, and also carryover potential. Effectively, you play this in a round. The end of the round happens, right? It goes to your opponent's graveyard, and then it starts eating their graveyard. If it eats the whole graveyard, then it comes back to your side of the board. So you effectively get 14 points. 2 of these 7-point bodies in 2 different rounds. Worth pointing out, if the opponent kills this, you play it, then they kill it, it's going to be in your graveyard. It's not going to go to theirs because it won't be the end of the round yet. and then it's going to eat your cards and potentially go to their side of the board. Makes sense? So it's got a bit of risk reward associated with it, but this is a very interesting card. It feels like it's like a Phoenix, but kind of better. But also, yeah, there's a lot of situations where it might not be too great, where if they have too many cards, it can't do much. You know, it can be used by Hjalmar, or, you know, eaten with Osrel or whatever. Like, there's lots of ways you can potentially play around this, shuffle it back, etc, etc. Yeah, very interesting card. Will it be playable? That's kind of a hard one to say, honestly. I mean, there's quite a lot of echo cards and stuff around. That doesn't matter, right? Because the echo card will go back anyway by the time this gets there. It's more, you know, if Lippy is a thing, then maybe it's decent, because it could eat their stuff, make their sequencing awkward, force them to Lippy early, maybe. I don't know. I kind of find it hard to imagine this will be good, but carryover. I mean, it could be. It could very well be. I think it depends, like, it's kind of a card that it's hard to figure out how much value you actually get from it until you play with it hands-on, see the in-game situations where it's good and where it's bad, and yeah. Kind of a hard one for me to predict, but could go either way, I think. It's a cool card design though, you know, just very interesting and different and risk-reward oriented. Alright, now we've got Salamander. This card is, oh my goodness, what even am I looking at? I didn't realize this was a real card when I first saw it. I thought this is some kind of meme card, like, okay, someone did a custom card. 1 strength, 9 provisions, Salamander for good old Syndicate. Profit 1, increase profit 1 for every Salamander unit that you control, Salamandra, I should say, and deploy poison a unit. If you tribute 9, then poison all units on the battlefield instead. Jesus Christ. What is going on here? I don't even know how to begin to evaluate this card. I mean, obviously the effect is pretty nutty and cool, and it fits very well in a self-poison deck, of course, if you don't care about your own units getting poisoned. It can act as a mega nuke, I guess, for, I think it can, anyway, if, like, you know, you can destroy the whole board if you have Sienna, I think. So that's worth noting. That could just be, like, a way to auto-win if the opponent doesn't have Veiled units. Like old Hemdall, almost. Yeah. You need a lot of Salamandra units to get the profit value, but I guess you're just playing this for tribute, poisoning a bunch of shit. God, I don't even know if this will be good. It's so hard to even consider. All I know is it's a very cool effect. Yeah, this card is just wild. Absolutely wild. I don't really know what more to say about it. Yeah, could be good. Self-poison's being pushed for Syndicate. Maybe that archetype will be good. I was kind of thinking it would be terrible, but now seeing how many cards are self-poison focused in this expansion, you know, anything's possible. Anything is possible. It could be that that's, you know, going to be the way that Syndicate wants to play. I'm still a bit on the fence about that. I'm not sure it'll be too strong as an archetype, but I mean, if anything's gonna have a say about that, it's probably gonna be a Salamander coming down and poisoning everything. I love to see these just creative and, you know, very yeah, wild, crazy effects. We haven't seen too many of them in recent times, and it's good to have some creativity and interesting stuff and cards that just make you think, is that good? I don't know. I have to try it. I have to try that out. I have to see how it works. Instead of just looking at the numbers and being like, yeah, that damages by 5, it's a good card, or, you know, whatever. Anyway, let's go next. Now we got the monster, kind of legendary, you know, big, scary guy. 8 for 12, Death Wish, shuffle it back to your deck and increase its base power by 3. Holy moly, this is Ciri Dash from way back, when she used to strengthen herself, you know, whenever she went to the graveyard, and you used to be able to play sort of hyper thin monsters with Ciri Dash. It wasn't very good. Now, this card is a Death Wish unit, and I think it is a bit stronger than Ciri Dash was, so that's something to keep in mind. Will this be viable as an archetype? That's kind of the hard thing to say, right? Because this card definitely wants you to go sort of all in on it to get the value, because of course playing it as an 8, and then as an 11, and then as a, you know, you have to play it quite a few times to actually get good value from it. worth noting when you are playing it as an 8, you can maybe consider that as like playing a 7 or so provision card. So obviously that's kind of a little bit better than what you're expecting to play from your hand as an early play. So in some way, there's a bit of value from the first play that you get on it. Like, you know, it's worth maybe 9 for 12 from the get-go, something like that. And if you play it a second time, then it's starting to look pretty good, because then you're playing, well, that's just, you know, an 11. And it's kind of hard. It's like, you can look at it kind of like an echo card, I suppose, right? Yeah, it's a weird one to evaluate, but effectively, yeah, if you play it multiple times, you're getting more and more value. If you can play this 3 times, it's actually pretty good, I think. If you play it twice, it's kind of borderline, it's okay. If you play it 3 times, it's a very good card, I think. You know, if that value is... yeah, I think this card is probably just good. It's just a matter of finding a way to actually tutor it and make it, you know... Probably have to play like a Neuromancy and Naglfar, maybe, like 2 of those, or like, yeah, you could play even more tutors than that if you wanted to go crazy all in on this. But I feel like you're just kind of wanting to play this as like a little carryover thing. You do it maybe round 1, hope you get it in round 2, and then round 3 finisher it. Might be too inconsistent to be like played in the top competitive decks. It's very expensive as well. But I definitely think there'll be archetypes created just by this card existing. You're going to have this card being its whole archetype on its own, effectively. Definitely some support for hyperthin style of deck and gameplay, and yeah, it's just very interesting. Can't really say for sure whether it will be, yeah, in the competitive lists, because, you know, it does really help having just its big Thrive bodies as well, right? 8 is a nice a nice strength to start out with, but yeah, kind of hard to say if it will be like competitive, but it's very interesting nonetheless. Next we got Keldar. This is a 4 strength, 1 armor, 9 provision Witcher for Northern Realms. Resupply, spawn a Witcher student on this row. Adrenaline 4 at the end of your turn. Spawn a Witcher student on this row. So clearly you can get 2 Witcher students per turn in theory towards the end of a round if you can, you know, be playing warfare cards. Honestly though, guys, I think this card can't really ever be too good. It's a bit too vulnerable, I think, at 5 strength effectively. 9 provisions doesn't allow you to do any shenanigans with amphibious assault. I think ultimately this card is a bit doomed to just be a bit too vulnerable of an engine at a bit too high of a price. I think there are better options for Northern Realms. Yes, this maybe you want to play with all the Witcher, you know, Griffin adepts and whatnot. You know, copying them, getting a bunch of points from those, but I think you're just better off playing frigates, you know, and all the boring engines that we already have, you know, boring, Anastrenga, etc. I think it's just a bit too gimmicky to go for this line of play, this approach. Going to be a bit too expensive for what you get. That's my 2 cents on that. Next we got Bear Witcher Quartermaster, 4 strength, 5 provisions, order effect, damage an allied unit by 1, then spawn a Witcher student in this row. It's a Skellige card. Is this good? Well, kind of look at it like a, effectively a Svalbard Priest, I guess. Problem is it only has 2 charges, right? So that is, yeah, it's a bit interesting, right? You can only do this twice, and then it's not going to be doing much for you. I mean, you can still get some pretty great value from it. God, how do I even evaluate this? It's really... okay, you also get the Witcher students, right? I mean, that's the whole point. What am I saying? I'm a little bit lost today, guys. I'm a little bit lost. So I guess if you're damaging actual things, then this can be a 6 for 5. Otherwise, it's an 8 for 5. If the damage doesn't matter to you. That's okay. That's okay. I feel like cards like Priest and stuff are just a bit better, but I suppose this is like synergy with the Mentor card, right? The Bear Witcher Mentor. I'm not sure I see this card being too great, but I don't know. It's like, it's kind of playable-ish, and you can kind of instantly get the value. I don't know, it's not terrible. It's not a terrible card by any means. Yeah, kind of hard to say if that will be played. It's like another one of these like good cards, but is it good enough to compete with the other Skellige Bronzes? And in what deck do you play it? Well, probably Battle Trance, but in Battle Trance you've already kind of got the engines that damage, which are the Priests, and they're probably better than this because they can just infinitely, you know, activate. So I don't know, not too sure about this. Next, Salamandra Lackey, 4 for 4, fill a card at the end of your turn if you gain at least 1 coin, boosts up by 1. Not very good, I think, not going to be played. Too vulnerable, bad engine really, only ever boosting by 1 per turn. Don't play it. Better cards out there, especially for Syndicate. There's a lot of good cards for Syndicate, I don't think this is ever being played. And finally we have Gellert Bleinheim. This is a pretty interesting card, kind of like a Kalkstein, 5 for 7 and fee with a cooldown of 1. So you can only do it once per turn. It also profits 3 when you play it, so yeah, basically very similar to Kalkstein. Poison an allied unit and boost it by 2 is the effect. This is a very powerful effect. You can effectively generate 1 point per turn for free. If you have poison, self-poison synergies going on, you're going to get a lot more than that. If you don't care about the unit being poisoned, you're already, yeah. I mean, I think it's a decent card. Like, it definitely supports the archetype, right? You can use this with the abominations in theory, or with the chemists and whatever that, you know, already exist in the game. Yeah, question is that good enough? Is that reason enough? It does mean you can play things like the abomination, and what's the other card? You know, the 9 for 5, you can play that immediately, poison it, get the 9 strength straight away, which is decent, right? Provided the opponent doesn't run poison themselves. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a powerful combo, right? The question is, will there be enough motive to do this? Still unsure, but the Salamander looks very scary, so something to think about. Yeah, decent card, good support for the archetype. That's going to do me for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Some pretty interesting cards again. I mean, I'm maybe not as hyped as I was last time, or like not sounding as hyped, but I am very excited for the expansion. Truth be told, I just haven't eaten food and I'm a little bit... I need something in my stomach to energize. But with that being said, thanks a lot for watching again, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. Expansion drops so soon, so make sure you stay up to date with all the videos and whatnot. I'll see you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.